Many Vietnam veterans never received the welcome home they so richly deserved, and Fayetteville wants to change that. Heroes Homecoming is a 10-day celebration featuring special events, discussion, and fellowship leading up to a Veterans Day celebration on 11/11/11. Fayetteville Mayor Tony Chavonne gave us more information about this historic event.
Well, Heroes Homecoming is our opportunity for this community to come together for 10 days in November to welcome home our Vietnam veterans, our nation's veterans, and for not only that, but also for our native-born Vietnamese who live here. As you know, the faces of our community reflect where the Army's been over the last 100 years, and we have a significant number of native-born Vietnamese. And also important is the fact that this community, of all communities, Fayetteville, Vietnam, so closely aligned with that conflict and that period of time in our nation's history. It's an opportunity for us to all better understand what it was like here and what it was like for those soldiers who came here briefly on their way to an unpopular war. And I think it'll be beneficial not just for our veterans, but for those of us who live here as well. Well, we've got several exciting events planned during the 10 days. You know, we've kind of broken it down into, it starts with an inform and educate. We really want there to be the opportunity for people to learn what it was like, for that young guy or girl gets on a bus in Nebraska, drives halfway across the country, gets off at Fort Bragg in late July 1968, 110 degrees, be here about 6 weeks for training on their way to an unpopular war and coming home to an ungrateful country. You know, that is so different than the way we see the military today. We want to make sure that people have the opportunity during this 10 days to have a better understanding of that. So we've done that several ways. We'll have subject matter experts who were here at the time that can talk about what their experiences were. Have several speakers lined up. General Lindsay will be speaking his perspective, not only as a military leader, Distinguished Service Cross awardee during Vietnam, but someone obviously closely involved in our community, still helps us significantly here. He'll be here. We have a great speaker at the Fayetteville State University who will be speaking on the African American Vietnam veteran who have their own story to tell, and one that I think would be very interesting. The native-born Vietnamese folks will have a weekend to help share the wonderful story of their country, their people, their culture, so we can have a better appreciation that Vietnam is so much more than Walter Cronkite's brief newscast each night. So great opportunities leading up to the early part of the week to really understand what it was like. Thankfully, we've got some wonderful things as we approach Veterans Day itself. Two of the most touching ones we currently have in our community out at Fort Bragg, a Vietnam War Memorial. If you've ever driven on the base off All-American Expressway, it's on the side of the road. It's lit but overgrown. You can't pull off. It certainly is not a place of honor. On Thursday, November the 10th, we'll be rededicating the Vietnam War Memorial on the main post parade field. Along with the other memorials in a place of dignity and respect. I think that'll be very well attended by veterans and a really profound statement about what this is all about. And we're excited about that. That very same day, the senior spouse leadership at Fort Bragg will be hosting in their homes a luncheon for our Gold Star wives. We have about 24 Gold Star wives in Fayetteville who lost their husbands during the conflict, and they'll be having lunch with the command team, spouse team at Fort Bragg. A very powerful message as well. All this leads up to a day of honor, Veterans Day, November the 11th, Friday. We'll begin with a memorial wreath to be laid on our Vietnam Memorial, which is in Freedom Park, and then transition over to a pretty exciting one. We'll be rededicating a POW MIA monument that actually was in our city, commissioned in 1973 by Mayor Lee at that time in honor of 19 Fayetteville POWs. 3 of them will be with us that day, including Colonel Ray Shrump, who was probably our most widely recognized POW. And we'll rededicate that monument in Freedom Park. An interesting story on that. It got lost after the Radisson Hotel was torn down. Earlier this year in the U.S. Customs Department in California, it was intercepted on its way to Vietnam. And someone found it there. They called back over here, said they read it, saw about Fayetteville, North Carolina. We were able to find that, bring it back. It'll be rededicated. Then we'll move at 11 o'clock, 11/11/11, so it'll be official Veterans Day ceremony in the North Carolina Veterans Park. So all day Friday is really going to be a day of honor and on the formal Veterans Day. It concludes on the celebration Friday night and Saturday. with a large concert, Darius Rucker out at the Crown Arena, and every veteran can get in free for that. And then Saturday, the huge, hopefully huge, and we think we'll have hundreds of Vietnam veterans, hopefully more, parading down Hay Street in the Veterans Day Parade. And we think that'll be an opportunity for every citizen of Fayetteville to come downtown and thank a veteran for their service. Later that day, a couple of things worthy of note. Certainly, that afternoon we'll be showing an award-winning documentary, Killing Memories, at the Cameo, which is a story of 5 Vietnam veterans who went back to Vietnam, went back to the fields that their friends died in, went back in the tunnels that they were involved in cleaning out, and it's their story. All 5 of those veterans from all over this country are coming to Fayetteville. They'll be with us for that documentary. We think that'll be a powerful message. And we'll conclude with a really fun time, a USO show out at the Crown Theater with kind of the Bob Hope variety show with Connie Stevens and Adrian Carnauer, who was famous for Good Morning Vietnam. A real celebration, a real kind of a topping off of 10 days of great opportunities to thank veterans in our community. So people ask, what does success look like? Well, obviously success looks like we can thank a veteran, and every one of us can do that. And I hope that we all take the opportunity to do that. It's also the opportunity for the native-born Vietnamese, for their country's story and culture and great people, to that story to be told better than it probably has been. And I think it's an opportunity for this city to have a better appreciation for what it was like here, and that those men and women answering their nation's call, and this city doing exactly the same thing it does now 40 years later. So I am excited about it. I've been involved in a lot of things in private sector, and as your mayor now, I guess, for 6 years, I've never been involved in a more rewarding project than this one. And it's really exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to it and hope everyone can attend.